Aš tiesiog dabar galvoju. Vienas. Ja. Tai mums, tai tau reikės va taip visą.
Nes mes dviese pakaitom kalbėsim.
Užsienio ir darbuotojai, ir dėstytojai, ir studentų truputėlį kažkiek yra temos.
Tai galime jau.
Reikėtų tokios griežtesnės standartus. Man galbūt yra baisiausia, kad nebevertina. Ir tas turiu omeny gal ne tai, kad nebevertina, bet, o gal ir nebevertina. Elementarus pavyzdys, mes prieš COVID turėjom tokius žaidimų vakarus. Čia univere susirinkdavo apie 50 studentų, kas nors žaisdavo mafiją, kas nors žaisdavo board games, kažkas žaisdavo PlayStation'ų, žinai. Mes tokia jau buvom įsikūrę bendruomenės, žinai. Ir dabar ta karta, kurie kūrė ir darė, jinai kaip ir išėjo, kai kurie liko magistrantūroje. Ir dabar viena mergina sako, parodom tą jaunuolį kartą, kad mafiją, kai mes žaisdavo, jo, kas yra kas, žinai.
Jo, yra NATO dabar jau eik kartu.
Labas.
Labai smagu. Romoje, Kaune, Paryžiuje. Spalio mėnesį.
Taip, lauksim. O,
Nes bus forumas gruodžio 12, o spalio 9 knygos pristatymas.
knygos pristatymas.
Spalio 11 parodos atidarymas, spalio 6 parodos atidarymas. Kviečiu labai į Arką. 25 dieną.
Irgi rudenį,
Paroda
ne?
bus, pirma bus Kadistė, ne, man atrodo, Kadistė, o po to Palėdė Tokija.
Palėdė 16. Spalio 16.
Jo, įrodysiu tokį baisų projektą. Družba vadinasi. Sovietų didžiausias.
Mums reikia pasibandyti garsą.
Taip.
Vienas.
Dabar įjungtas?
Aš girdžiu, jo. Vienas.
Kad nebūtų interferencijos, Gedai.
Puikiai garsas girdisi.
Kad nebūtų interferencijos.
Good morning to everyone. It's a big day for Vytautas Magnus University, and it happened to be also a very sunny day. It's my pleasure to see you all, first of all, here, the students, the colleagues, some familiar faces, some new faces. I'm Vice Rector for Communication at Vytautas Magnus University, and it's a big pleasure to celebrate the 35th anniversary of the reestablishment of the university, which also happens to be the 35 years of liberal arts in Lithuania. And I would like to ask the rector of Vytautas Magnus University, Professor Juozas Augutis, to start the forum.
Good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, scholars, and advocates of liberal arts education. It's really my great pleasure and honor to welcome each and every one of you. This event is particularly significant because it marks the 35th anniversary of the re-establishment of Vytautas Magnus University and the introduction of the liberal arts model to Lithuania. As we reflect on the historical journey of our university, we are reminded of its pioneering spirit and its commitment to innovations. This celebration highlights the enduring relevance and vitality of liberal arts education in today's dynamic landscape. We live in an era of constant changes and transformations. Technology is changing, the public is changing, the very idea of the university is changing. We live in the time of unpredictable conditions and crises that require multidisciplinarity and broad education to resolve. But there is a belief that prosperity, or at least economic security, is only granted by a narrow study of the subject. However, that is not true. There will always be those in the community, especially young people, who don't fit into the established narrow programs. Equally, there will be always those who seek and create. That's why the learning system needs to be designed to enable students to find their own task and curricula, rather than being restricted to the narrow program frame. Our forum brings together known academics, partners, social stakeholders, and policymakers from around the world. They represent a diverse range of perspectives and experiences. Together, we will engage in serious discussion on how the very idea of the university is being reshaped in the midst of the forces of change. I extend my gratitude to all participants for their invaluable contribution and commitment to passing the boundaries of knowledge. May our deliberation be fruitful, our exchanges enriching, and our bonds enduring. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you, Rector. To promote liberal arts education, it's very much important to cooperate and to have supporters, and to work together with policymakers, with decision makers. And we are happy to have here with us today, for a welcoming word, advisor to the President of the Republic of Lithuania on educational matters, Ms. Jolanta Urbanović. The floor is yours.
Dear colleagues, it is an honor for me to greet you all and to convey the greetings from the President of the Republic of Lithuania. First of all, I would like to congratulate the Vytautas Magnus University of community and university partners. As you already mentioned, the university this week is celebrating the 35th anniversary of the re-establishment of Vytautas Magnus University. It is really encouraging to see how the university is growing, getting stronger, and expanding its horizons. And it is meaningful that the university is celebrating its birthday by organizing so meaningful events and bringing together not only researchers and academics, but also top-level politicians, practitioners, and experts. This international forum is dedicated to discussing the idea of the university and its transformation. And also today, this afternoon, will be the university will host the forum on the idea of Europe with political elite and academia, and the idea of strong and prosperous Europe goes hand in hand with innovative and progressive universities. Today's geopolitical, social, economic, and environmental challenges as such extremely complex and very cross-cutting. And this is why the need for liberal arts studies and humanities perspective and outlook in today's world is greater than ever. Not only by trying to analyze what is, but also by constructing new unifying narratives. And so I wish all participants of the forum interesting presentations and fruitful discussions. I hope that today's event will contribute to the university's core mission of fostering democracy and the fundamental values of freedom, openness, tolerance, and liberality. Thank you.
Thank you, Advisor to the President. And Vytautas Magnus University got its liberal arts model brought to us by Lithuanian diaspora scholars from the United States. So it is very meaningful and very important to have with us today a representative of the United States Embassy, Public Affairs Officer, Ms. Colleen Smith, for a welcoming word.
Good morning. As we are celebrating a liberal arts education, a really important milestone today, I also hope and expect that this room is full of very curious minds, as that is what is the essence of a liberal arts education. So thank you very much for inviting me today. In a world that is often measuring success in the very narrow terms of technical skills and whether or not you can get a job right out of college, the liberal arts, I believe, still remains a beacon of intellectual exploration and holistic learning. More than a curriculum, it's a philosophy that resonates deeply within the values on which the United States was founded. So when we think about the core principles that the United States and Lithuania share, I would say those are freedom, democracy, and the pursuit of happiness. There is an intrinsic connection to the liberal arts. At its heart, a liberal arts education is about embracing diverse perspectives, fostering critical thinking, and nurturing a deep sense of empathy and understanding. The liberal arts students here, you don't just study subjects, you engage with the human experience. You're exploring history, literature, science, philosophy, and a lot of other things, and also how these disciplines relate with one another. So again, especially today, some might question the practicality of a liberal arts education as the economy is rapidly changing. But I can tell you, let me assure you, that what is possibly more practical than learning to adapt, to think critically, and effectively communicate. These are skills that transcend any specific job title or technical trend. They prepare us not only for one career, but for a lifetime of learning in a world where only change is constant. I myself am a graduate of a liberal arts education, and I really do credit the professors and the classes that I took in helping instill in myself a sense of creativity and problem solving. And I can tell you that as someone who has lived in countries from China to Afghanistan to Lithuania, that is a skill that has helped me throughout my career. I think that the liberal arts embodies the very essence of the American and Lithuanian ideals. They draw inspiration from diverse philosophies and cultures to craft a vision of a new nation, and our founding fathers did not seek narrow expertise. They valued breadth of knowledge and the ability to engage in reasoned debate. Lithuania's history is also full of great minds that used debate, literature, music, and philosophy to resist occupation and hold on to the identity and the values that makes it unique. In conclusion, I would say that liberal arts education isn't just about what we learn, it's about who we become. It's about cultivating the kinds of citizens our society needs: thoughtful, compassionate, curious individuals who can navigate complexity with grace and wisdom. Thank you.
And now we will continue with our keynote speech, and I'm extremely honored, delighted, and happy to invite here our big friends and also visiting professors at Lietuvos University, Nomeda and Gediminas Urbonas. Could you please take a seat while I'll give a very short introduction of you? Of course, it's impossible to say everything in a few words, but I'll try to be brief. Nomeda and Gediminas Urbonas are artists, educators, researchers, internationally recognized for their practice that merges urbanism, new media, social sciences, and pedagogy to critically address the transformation of civic space and ecology. Urbonas work collectively and built reputation for their socially engaged artworks exhibited worldwide, including biennales in São Paulo, Berlin, Lyon, Guangzhou, Busan, and Taipei. Folkestone Triennale in the UK. The Manifesto for Exhibition in Frankfurt. They represented Lithuania twice in Venice Biennale. For a significant contribution to media art in the projects of Protest Lab and Villa Lithuania, Urbonas' artistic practice was awarded a number of high-level prizes, including a prize for the Best International Artist at the Guangzhou Biennale in 2006, the Lithuanian National Prize in 2007, and the honorable mention for the National Pavilion at the Vilnius Biennale 2007 for Villa Lithuania, the last Lithuanian territory yet under occupation. In 2018, Urbonas created the Swarm School, Future Learning Environment at the 16th Venice Architecture Biennale, where students and faculty from Vytautas Magnus University put into the center of attention Lithuanian high-raised peat bog as model for coexistence and eco-commoning. In addition to a number of publications, their book Swarms and the New Imagination on the Future of Cohabitation in Art, Architecture and Philosophy, distributed by MIT Press, is forthcoming in 2024. Urbanas lecture extensively internationally. Their professorship positions include Norwegian University for Science and Technology, Central Academy of Fine Arts in Beijing, Nuova Accademia di Belle Arte in Milano. They are full-time faculty at MIT's program in Art, Culture and Technology in Boston, and visiting professors at Vytautas Magnus University, and we're very proud of that. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Tam geras. Žinau, kad neišėjęs fullscreen padarai.
Neišėjęs.
Thank you, Dr. Vilma, for a generous introduction. And first of all, we want to congratulate Vytautas Magnus University with the anniversary. Greet its students, founders, faculty, alumni, and honorable guests gathering this morning to support this assembly.
We are really very honored to start this historic day, and thank you, Vytautas Magnus University, for inviting us, and all of us, and you in the audience joining this early morning. In our presentation or in talk, we will give you a short overview of our artistic practice, and will unpack artistic construct of the key concepts that forge interdisciplinarity and artistic scientific modeling, summarized, as we say, as pragmatic fictions.
Our interest in collective and organizational forms of art is contingent on the transition from Soviet to post-Soviet condition. Our experience as art students at the end of the 80s was marked by Chernobyl ecological disaster and crisis of the civic society brought up by the war in Afghanistan. The ecological movements provoked by civic and environmental disintegration coincided with privatization and transitioning to computerization and medialization.
Within this context, we launched our practice pondering on ecological repair as a response to social crisis and considering art as infrastructure to sustain ecology and democracy. We started to reach out to other fields, seeking allies for development of new emerging vocabularies that could go beyond representation. Not simply arguing for its artistic practice, but also considering social, organizational, investigative, and consciousness-raising forms of practice that redefine research. Engaging in practice that invites unexpected conjunctions between conditions, knowledges, and effects that facilitate invention of new forms of inventing beyond commentary.
As such, our projects are slow, they are multi-annual, engage diverse individual and institutions, and diversity of social groups, humans and modern humans. We are interested in organizational aesthetics that help our initiated projects to escape beyond duration of exhibitions, or institutional frameworks, or sometimes beyond artist control, to further develop as platforms, initiatives, or movements. In the first part of the presentation, we will skim through several projects formative to our practice, while in the second, we will focus on the latest projects that engage ecological reparation.
Okay, and here we have already a technical glitch okay, I learned how to do it. So we start with transaction. The project that was provoked by the interview with Raimondas Milašiūnas, a main psychiatrist of the country at that time in 2001, reflecting upon the unease and traumatic transition of the 90s, the main psychiatrist of the country stated that Lithuania is living in the scenario of a victim. Following the propositions of psychiatrists to deploy transactional analysis with a method of therapy suggesting a drama triangle, that is to analyze victim scenario as a way to reach transformative effect, we started to develop a project where staged encounters with psychiatrists, women intellectuals, and the references they made to the role models in media and film in particular were brought, and these three things were brought together into a system of exchanges, into an ongoing triangulating dialogue. In this work, we are looking how the artwork can draw on scientific modeling and could render new forms of pedagogy for identity formation. So I quickly skim through the pictures of how we constructed the work, and also here you see like different embodiments of that research in the installations. Initially commissioned by the Center of Contemporary Art in Rotterdam, the project involved collaboration with Gender Studies Department at the Central European University and at the Women's Studies Department at Vilnius University. And the renowned New York-based curator Okve Envisor saw this project and as example of art that deals with post-coloniality and its trauma, and invited to document 11 Castle in 2002.
Prompted by the discussion on voice as device that speaks to power, we started development of the conceptual instrument that could perform, archive, and explore voice as a social construction and as metaphysical phenomenon. The work starts from interview with two Rutas, psychologist and music semioticist, both sharing their first name with plant Ruta. That's like a pharmacon has threefold function: remedy, poison, and scapegoat, and is known in witchcraft. The work unfolds as an archive of silenced voices through a form of an installation and a device that bring together our interest in gender construction, sound technology, and fashion. It also works as a platform for collaboration and renders diverse outcomes from performance to fashion collection to workshops and even sound technology.
In the protest lab, the project we probing artwork as device for collective action. Merging artistic and civic scales, we initiate series of interventions that question the destruction of the largest cinema theater in the country and the erasure of modernist heritage. Reflecting on the lack of protests and resilience to the destruction of public spaces, we are setting up a mailing list that connects more than 400 members. That's in 2005, and brings together neighbors, cinema people, heritage activists, architecture students, alternative political movements, and even animals. And engaging the role of artists as facilitators, we instigate events of different durations and characters to develop artworks that build methodology and archive of performative forms of protest, those contributing to social and political transformation. And maybe to entertain you a little bit more, we could look at one of the actions. There were very many of them, but this one was maybe more funny.
mikrofoną ir tada bėgo glodami. Kažkodėl. Tai buvo įspūdingas šuolis. Ką jūsų šuo norėjo pasakyti tokį salvį, kaip jūs manote? Tai baisu? Tau baisu, kad nebeliks Lietuvos? Matot, pritarimas visiškai.
So these performative forms use all possible forms of publishing, including exhibitions, and prompt new political subjectivities and soon develop into a political movement and even several lawsuits in an attempt to secure democratic participation and insist on the new law to safeguard public spaces on the national level.
Villa Lithuania is our proposal for the National Pavilion in Venice Biennale art exhibition in 2007. Prompted by the fact that Lithuania, as many other countries that were colonized, doesn't have a presence in the geopolitical constellation inscribed in the map of Giardini in Venice, where major colonial powers have built their pavilions, our proposal was to construct pavilion in flight. As a way to poetically reclaim colonized space, we make connection between the absence of the pavilion in Giardini and a colonized space, Villa Lithuania, former Lithuanian embassy in Rome, that as a result of Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact remains last occupied territory of the country. This painful chunk of land and history was arguably not addressed by the officials of Lithuanian diplomacy at the time. Inspired by resilience, as demonstrated by Lozoraitis' ethical diplomacy, we suggested artistic diplomacy connecting pigeon fancies in Lithuania, Russia, Poland, and Italy in a collective endeavor of an international pigeon race for a trophy of Villa Lithuania.
After the liberation of 1,200 pigeons sent to Venice from different countries, like Lithuania, Italy, of course, Poland, Russia, and regions, countries and regions in Italy, we opened the spatial model of the villa designed as a pigeon loft and inhabited it with the posters, models of the trophies for the race and other paraphernalia of the race. Here, films and media, specially produced for that occasion and for that project, registered diverse forms of civic disobedience that counteracts with the official position of the state and thus probes the idea of critical pavilion. And we also have a book on that. You can perhaps find it in the future.
Yeah, we should add that project was awarded a special jury prize from the Biennale for an insightful and subtly humorous investigation into the notion of the pavilion and the meaning of national identity, engaging the spectator within a compelling narrative. With prizes for the Protest Lab and Kwangju Biennial and for Villa Lithuania in Venice, we were headhunted by MIT and relocated there in 2009. Situated at the heart of design culture, School of Architecture and Planning, where Georgi Kepes, artist and founder of the Center for Advanced Visual Studies, brought together artists, designers, scientists, and engineers to think through art and develop proposition for environmental citizenship. 50 years ago, encouraging ways of thinking and making together with other disciplines and species. The series Kepes edited that called Vision plus Value argue that vision is a fundamental factor of human insight. It is our most important resource for shaping our physical, spatial environment and grasping the new aspects of nature revealed by modern science. Echoing Moholy Nagy Kepes continues, artists are living seismographs, as it were, with a special and direct sensitivity to the human condition. Their immediate and direct response to the sensuous quality of the world helps us to establish an entente with the living presence.
Inspired by Kepes and Kevin Lynch's collaboration on Charles River in Boston, we started River Runs, a research and design project that looks into the riparian territory of river cultures and probes vision of a river as a public space. From archival research to classes that brought MIT students to focus on Charles and Thames rivers in Cambridge, the project was further developed through a residency at the Oxford Modern. Here, daily observations registered in the interviews with the river dwellers facilitate the design of the evocative object that allows to view the river and stay dry at the same time. The design of this hybrid device is informed by hydrophobic condition of the aquatic plant researcher at the Oxford University. It is called, yes.
You look like a big baby.
It is called Jellyfish Lily, and it's a platform for wet pedagogy.
It's like it's swallowing me. It's really nice. It's like being in a hammock. Do you ever have those dreams where you're being swallowed by like a hole in the ground? This is awesome. Thank you.
Oops, sorry. What did I do? Sorry for this, but that's kind of like, the situation we have to adapt to. So the Jellyfish Lily was initially created actually for the VET Symposium, which brought scholars from across the field in humanities and biology, and they had to deliver the papers, as we do now, in the water.
Interest in riparian cultures, islands, and archipelagic thinking brought us to Turku archipelago in Finland for development of Utopia project. Here, the connection is forged between Pia, teacher, and her family who quit jobs in the city of Helsinki to start new life in the countryside and raise sheep in the island called Uto. In this work, the sheep milk cheese becomes a medium that connects a well-being of human body with the body of a sheep and the body of a landscape to unpack the environmental damage historically produced by militarization of sea and islands from 18th century to the Cold War era that turned islands into the bunkers. It also charts the impacts of industrial agriculture, including pollution of soil and water, as well as the pipelines that are built on the bottom of the Baltic Sea, arguably the most polluted sea in the world. Through the series of cheese-making workshops, we argue that appropriating Cold War bunkers into cheese ripening facilities and bringing soldiers for hand milking of sheep may help to recuperate the quality of soil and well-being of landscape.
Following our interest in archipelagic thinking, we conducted a long-term 5-year project called Zoetics, which was like a series of symposiums and also prototyping workshops to explore human, non-human, and poetic knowledge spheres, and situating artistic imagination in that context. Building on symbiosis, making with and coming together in a multi-species world, along the symposium events, we developed a lab to probe hybrid materiality inspired by symbiotic powers of mushroom. Here, the psychotropic house or zoetic pavilion of Ballardian technologies emerges as a laboratory that explores mycelium abilities to create new connections, mutualisms, and new materialities. For example, in São Paulo, we collaborated with Edison de Souza, mycologist at the Institute of Biology, and we probed how autochthonous mycelium could recycle agricultural waste from coffee, sugarcane, and corn plantations of São Paulo area established by settler colonialism. A resulting lab is nested in the exhibition and engages visitors in pedagogical exercises, including understanding of mycelium, of indigenous oyster fungi, and their capacity to colonize substrates and create new materialities for imagination of landscape and things surrounding us.
Our interest in mushroom power brought us to Folkestone Triennial, where at a port town of English Channel, 3 human agencies, Municipal Council, Kent County, and Southeast England region, end up in a dysfunctional dispute over responsibility to fix street light in the main square. Our proposal was to give all power to the mushrooms. Working with scientists at the University of Kent, we developed battery that uses carbonized mushroom as a replacement of graphite or graphene typically used in lithium-ion batteries. Resulting mushroom power plant installation powers the lamp that was taken off the city grid with innovative microbial and mushroom tissue-based batteries housed in a large manufactured rock, itself a reference to the fossil-rich cliffs of Folkestone.
The power of plant is not just the stone, it is all the relationship that we facilitated with the people of the town hall, with the scientists working on the bio-batteries, and all those who are pushing the discourse of energy humanities. This all constitutes the organizational aesthetics of the piece. We do not see the power plant as an isolated object. It is a prop or a trigger that puts things in motion, that captures people's imagination in hopes for shifting and changing their habits of thought.
Simply put, these fictions are artworks, installations, videos, performances, narratives, etc., that allow the introduction of large-scale, non-human and theoretical entities into the scale of the human. Contrary to terms such as global warming or climate change that may appear detached from the day-to-day affairs of individuals and communities, these fictions provide aesthetically vivid and comprehensible image scenarios that may serve as public interfaces for interaction with otherwise overwhelming planetary problems. These imagination-fostering vehicles are organizational and pragmatic in the sense that instead of employing complex academic scientific jargon, they create conditions of engagement that is based on exchange of energies and information and hence bears a solid educational value. On the other hand, the pragmatic aspect of these fictions has been already demonstrated in a variety of socially engaged art projects. For example, the work of Cuban artist Tania Bruguera and her Arte Util that features a series of workshops, exhibitions, and seminars, and attempts to empower self-organized groups or individuals to develop new methods and social formations to deal with issues that were once the domain of the state. In order to be pragmatic, these projects seek to propose new uses of art within society. They use artistic thinking to challenge the field within which it operates, respond to current urgencies, operate on a one-to-one scale, replace authors with initiators and spectators with users, have practical, beneficial outcomes for its users, pursue sustainability, and reestablish aesthetics as a system of transformation.
So how are we doing with time? Because we still have a couple of things we wanted to present, but if it's... Yeah, maybe we still have to speak a little bit about the Swamp School, because, you know, this is important also in here in the house, because quite many of the students from VDU, from Vytautas Magnus University, and also professors participated. So the Swamp Challenge started from the proposal for the school as a form for the National Pavilion in the Venice Architecture Biennale in 2018, situated in the center of the Venetian lagoon and joined by dozens of schools, collaborators, and number of participants from diverse disciplines. The school develops pedagogical exercises that engage sensorial, immersive, and embodied knowing to support emerging forms of learning and urge us towards a change of perspective. There, we developed a concept of amphibian pedagogy that considers the ideas of radical pedagogy by Paulo Freire and extends them towards trans and post-disciplinary, as well as learning from and with modern humans. What makes it amphibian, perhaps it is the interrogation of the disciplinary as a new way to engage with trans, post, and anti-disciplinarity. Here, the amphibian is a new way to reframe transdisciplinarity, extending learning from with modern humans and horizontality of learning, learning together and teaching each other, and maybe changing roles and becoming participants, not tutors and students. So the school was very much inspired by this one document we discovered. It's a book by German botanist Karl Albert Weber, who conducted the first world scientific study on wetlands at the end of 19th century, or in actually 1902, at the Aukštumala, a raised peat bog on the west coast of Lithuania, which at that time was East Prussia. Following Humboldt, Weber studied interdependency of plants and insects, fungi, soil, and air, focusing his observation on sphagnum moss cultures and different phenomena in the swamp. So the field to Aukštumala was to revisit the Weber's footsteps and to engage in the lesson on instability. The school developed through 3 chapters and functioned as an open-ended and ever-changing infrastructure that supports collaborative experiments in design, artistic intelligence, and adapting to immanent unknowns.
While working with rivers, archipelagos, stones, and mushrooms, we were thinking of island project, Futurity Island, that could help us to reimagine learning as a public playground and as interface for embodied experience of the environment and its pollution. Conceptualized as a space for learning through listening, the Futurity Island serves as infrastructure that hosts sound compositions and performances that translate environmental pollution data into sonic cries. We collaborated here with the Environmental Agency of Ontario Province in Canada, and the pipes were donated by the industry in Mississauga, Toronto. Pipes here are primary structural and symbolic unit of the island. Once used to drain the swamps, pipe becomes a metaphor for human-centered ecology, an infrastructure of environmental domination, and one of the prime symbols of the Anthropocene. By installing sonic transducers within the structure, we aim at organic, reverberating object that creates space for swampy meditations and mediations, and acoustic experiments using sound as walking force that destabilizes both architectural space and the human misconception that we are builders of the environment.
Oops. Yeah, I'm not the best VJ today, sorry. So there is also a record you could listen to. And then maybe we can still talk a little bit about the swamp game, which also is like another iteration coming from the swamp school. The game which invites us as users to experience relations unfolding in the trembling swamp. So I will try to play the film and maybe also tell you a little bit more about it. Swamp is a perfect milieu to sense fragile interdependencies between the organisms and their habitat. Here, every member of the community is part of every other member's environment, as well as necessary for the survival of the whole. Informed by the fieldwork of scientists, again thanks to Professor Daubaras, here and his students, this exploratory game is an artistic translation of interdependencies, vibrant matter, and uncertain assemblages of Aukštumala Mor. Reflecting on the swamp as ecotone, the game engages with transitional nature of deep listening, chameleonic colors, aberrations of three-dimensional space, disoriented pace of movement, and chimeric language of the glyphs. The game probes the change of perspective and allows us to embody different species by touching swampian creatures, plants, insects, birds, amphibians, fungi, bacteria or algae, and this leads us to discover the main rule of cannibal metaphysics. To become the other, you have to be eaten.
So, yeah, maybe we could skip from the last project, and I just want to wrap up by saying that with this work and with this series of the works, we're hoping that exploration of pragmatic and fictional exchanges between humans, species, and their shared milieu could help us potentially to envision the future of the local environment, and also including energies that sustain life and imagination, and perhaps lead us to a new University of Climatic Commons. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you please take a seat next to me? And thank you for this beautiful blend of creativity, technology, and care for society. I know what's your takeaway message. My takeaway message is an enriched definition of liberal arts, art to sustain democracy and ecology. These are words from your presentation. I think they beautifully fit the definition. Do we have questions from the audience? I will not take time if somebody has already got that question. If you are still thinking, we don't have much time, so please think quickly. Before you come with the questions, I just want to start with the question that we posed in the very title of our forum. So, how do you see universities nowadays? How is the idea of the university transforming? Are you happy with how it is transforming? Or how should it? How would you envision the future of the university?
Okay. Okay. So if Named allows me to start, well, we see recently what is happening at the campuses of American universities, and we see all the anxiety, and we see also this as a certain symptom that universities are also they are not detached, you know, they are they are actually the center of geopolitical struggle. And as we relocated to the United States in 2009, we also witnessed Occupy movement, and then also there were tent cities built at university campuses. And I think, well, of course, we are living in the time with, that is saturated with all the post-truths and polarization, extreme polarization of the society. I think what universities could teach us, and I think I'm saying about kind of like the larger society, not about the university public, that there should be more stronger porosity between universities and also governments. Stronger, also bigger porosity between the urgencies of life. And so I think on one hand, we could say that what is happening on the campuses is a great example of democracy. What may be is challenging, that is, and challenging for a university and challenging for the communities in the universities, that they're still searching for this certain form, so all the members of the community could feel safe. And I think universities, and I truly believe that liberal arts education, could contribute to that. Could contribute to the ways how we can reestablish lost form of art, which is diplomacy.
Thank you. Nevada, would you like to add?
No, I think there.
Can you ask John, please?
Okay. I truly believe that we have to deeply rethink our values in this society in general. Like just, looking very broadly what is happening in the world, of course, it is an issue of values. And also looking at the climate crisis, which is so evident everywhere, every day. And we are so desperate, to get some solutions. But first of all, I think we have to rethink our values and somehow reestablish them. And of course, the school is that's where it all has to happen. All levels of the school, including the university. So, I don't know. That's my...
Thank you. Winning back the values. Yes, Dide. Please. Sure.
Question. First of all, it's very nice to hear that continuity of the project and how they create this long-term impact on society. I have a question which would be very interesting to hear your thoughts with the arrival of artificial intelligence, how that changes your way of doing work or influences, or just maybe your thoughts on that.
Yeah, of course, it is another very, very big urgency next to climate change and next to, peace on Earth. So, of course, how do we deal with that? Yes, of course, we already in 2016, 17, starting even the swamp school, which we, we just had a glimpse on that, but we already had some projects we started there dealing with artificial intelligence. We have a swamp intelligence, as we call it, module, so which is based on the artificial intelligence. We didn't have time maybe to show it, but yeah, we worked with that, and of course, as artists, we are very curious and always willing to try different new, things, new technologies, and look at its limits in a way. So we did a couple of experiments with that, but I don't know, it is a very broad question, and it develops also so rapidly, and takes over so fast over all the like spheres of our life. So it is frightening, and and I believe we have like you know, experts among us who can like speak about it much more profoundly and, you know, from a more professional point of view. We as artists, we use the tool, like we played with that, but we are not like really focusing on it, and we are not like using it on a daily basis of our practice.
Yeah, I want to add a few lines. First of all, as artists, we are also interested in the things that are uncomputable. So this is our contribution to the diversity of artificial intelligence project. We want to expand, as Nomeda mentioned, we want to expand the field. And as Nomeda mentioned, adding other forms of intelligence that are beyond the human, right? So the swamp intelligence, intelligence of other beings, you know, and things that are not computable. I think potentially could expand on this project. And as the British poet Alice Oswald beautifully said, that artificial intelligence will never be able to make a good poetry because it doesn't know of its own death.
Thank you very much. Yes. Do you need a mic? Actually, we have a mic, right? Can we? Yes, absolutely. Because I think that in the recording, and we are broadcasting, and then we'll have a recording, the question will not be heard. So I just.
Yes, thank you. My question is from transdisciplinarity, because I represent the Institute of Transdisciplinarity at our university. I'm leading this institute, and we do not know as a group of people what does it mean. And I have learned from your lecture that we need to go to cannibalism approach, to be eaten by the others, to become the other. And maybe you have a good advice for us how to deal with this cannibalism of destroying the boundaries of disciplines.
Yeah, thank you very much for this note. And, you know, as artists, we speak in metaphors. We don't like that word, but we do that. So, of course, you know, it is a very metaphorical gesture, but I think it is also very true when you look deeply from the other perspective, if you can do that, you know, or you can at least try to do that. You can like really try to look from the other perspective, or from the perspective of the other, and then the world changes. Then you know, we often say like we are centering human, you know, so much, and you know, maybe all the problems of ours are also coming from that point, but we are like in the center of, you know, the universe. But yeah, the swamp game was a little exercise, metaphorical exercise, but in a way, an attempt to like try to think about what would happen if we would, you know, position ourselves in, let's say, in a situation of the, I don't know, butterfly or a hedgehog, as we often say, yeah, and how the world would change, like how the perspective would change completely, and yeah. So this is just an exercise to do that, but we could try also to do that in many other situations. When we speak to the, I don't know, foreigner, or like the person from another context, another culture, we could like just try to like be in his or her or their situation, and the perspective would change. We could also try to be a biologist instead of artist, or I don't know, like politician.
Yeah, and just to add a few thoughts, so the cannibalist metaphysics is the concept that is proposed by Brazilian anthropologist Eduardo Viveiros de Castro. and his partner Deborah Danovsky. And it suggests that basically it suggests the principle how to change habits of thoughts of the human, of the moderns, what Latour is calling moderns, and acquire different point of view in order to see our environment. And there are interesting experiments, like for example in Paris, the group of scientists experimented with the perspective of urban development from the rat perspective. And so if we really want to seriously and radically embrace transdisciplinarity and also sustainability, especially if we're thinking of climatic commons, if we're thinking of the ways of adapting to the changing climates, human perspective is certainly reached its limits. So we need to really think from the perspectives of modern humans. So I think this is in the core of the cannibalist metaphysics. So in a way, we have to be eaten, right?
Thank you for a good answer. And yeah, time is just running out. Yes, Emilia, for the last question.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. It's really fascinating what you're doing. I like it very much. I like the element of education where you involve people in your projects and you expose them to different forms of life. I'm wondering if you have any, do you feel the impact of what you're doing? Do you have any returns of how people actually change? How do they get inspired through your projects? What happens afterwards? And then a very other small question, can we do the same things in our life? Can we develop such things, not being artists?
Okay, absolutely, you can. As Joseph Beuys said once, everyone is an artist, but only artists know that. And we love working with people coming from different spheres. We are not making art for the art. I am convinced, that modernism exhausted itself. This is what we're living in, the times that we have to deal with all the mess rendered by the modernism and modernity. And so if you think about modernist art, yes, then it was this idea of the artist genius and making art for the art. Today, and this is what we try to argue with pragmatic fictions, that we need to think through art about large problems, not in art, but outside of art. And art definitely can teach us forms of co-creation, forms of collaboration, forms of changing perspective, thinking about our actions as a forms, thinking and having the aesthetic dimension not as beautification, but as organizational principle, as judgment. I am strongly convinced that politicians need aesthetic education, and if you look at amazing politicians and also artists, and I could give example, Antanas Mockus, one of them, who's been, as you know, the rector of university in Bogota, also mayor of Bogota, and also a candidate to the president and founder of the party, and then he stepped down. So he was the politician who combined aesthetic judgment with public administration. And this is also what we tried to do, working with colleagues at Kennedy School for Public Administration at Harvard University, introducing aesthetic education to politicians.
Wonderful, wonderful. But perhaps now we would like to have a break, because we will not even manage to come to coffee, let alone drink it. So we definitely have to have a break. And I think that we'll have that break on a very wonderful note that everyone is an artist, and we just need to know that. So thank you very much. And I would like also to ask the rector to come to us because we have a very important moment here now. For an incredible and valuable contribution to Vytautas Magnus University, by the order of the rector, Nomeda and Gediminas Urbanas are awarded Silver Medal of Vytautas Magnus University.
Good morning, dear distinguished guests, colleagues, friends of Vytautas Magnus University. I'm happy to see here in the hall also students, international students, and high school students, I assume. So this is indeed a learning opportunity for all of us. I'm very happy to invite you to join our next point in the program, which is a panel discussion on diversity and transformations of higher education study modules. Our conference here is kind of covering a broad spectrum of topics, but one of the issues that unites many of those is transformations. Standing here at Vytautas Magnus University, I always remember the same kind of rhetoric that we have used in all our conferences and opening sessions, that we are liberal arts education that was brought, and university was brought on the basis to kind of help and assist building and restoring a resilient civil society. For that purpose, for that major purpose, both science and art should serve. And as we heard in our morning discussion and presentations by our distinguished professors, Nomeda and Gediminas Urbonas, art can give a very good helping hand in assisting us in such an endeavor. Now, today's session and panel discussion will take a little bit different twist, and we will hear perspectives and views from different regions, geographic regions, but also different experiences, cultural experiences, and histories of application of liberal arts ideals in different educational institutions. To my left, I will start introducing our guest panelists. I am very happy to invite to express his ideas Jody Murray, Dean of the College of Liberal Arts, Southern Illinois University, the United States of America. Then Shailendra Sharma, Vice President from Linian University in Hong Kong. Then Tsai Yen Lee, President of NCCU Taiwan. Then two of the local colleagues from Lithuania, or based in Lithuania, Vilma Žydžiūnaitė, Professor and Director of the Institute of Educational Research at VMU, and Sevket Ben-Hur Oral, researcher at Vytautas Magnus University Transdisciplinary Research Institute. As we have heard, and certainly if we are attending the panel on liberal arts education and applications of the ideas in practicality, we are already attached to this idea. So my first question, and I have to be a kind of, as a moderator, kind of designing structural points in our discussion, I would kindly and very gently invite to keep like 5 minutes, up to 5 minutes, for a major message to be transferred from each panelist. Already I've noticed that accidentally or non-accidentally, standing here in Lithuania, we may imagine as a kind of a central geographic spot between West and East, and those different perspectives apparently will give us new insights on perhaps the future of transformations of liberal arts and education. So please, Jody Murray, your experience, your insights from the history and your ideas. Thank you.
And do I understand the question in that you want to talk about the West and East?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
This is just a metaphor. If we can transfer the same idea from the previous discussion, I would think that in effect we are interconnected and we live in a global planet. Somehow we cannot ignore geography and perhaps experience. So it's always good to sort of give this insight that is sort of attached to your views and institutional perspectives and experiences, and maybe how you have addressed different challenges and risks that come with kind of this call to live in modern times and
Great.
changing times.
All right. Thank you all for having me. In the United States right now, April is National Poetry Month. And so if you will indulge me, I would like to start with a poem. It's by the Chilean poet Pablo Neruda. It's called It Is Born. Here I came to the very edge where nothing at all needs saying. Everything is absorbed through weather and the sea. And the moon swam back, its rays all silvered, and time and again the darkness would be broken by the crash of a wave. And every day on the balcony of the sea, wings open, fire is born, and everything is blue like morning. What I wanted to do with that poem is sort of address the question about how rebirth is constant in our human experience, as is death. But one of the things that one has taken from the earlier presentation was that you can't have one without the other, and that's how we get to know the other. One of the things that I think in the challenge of the liberal arts today in the United States is a steady drumbeat of its devaluation, and not by usually academics. Usually it's the academics that are the most defender of the liberal arts, but in a practical and very seemingly well-reasoned manner, mostly it's parents and friends and others that the students engage with that come to us who think whatever we're doing that's not directly and most relevantly part of what I plan to study is a waste of my time. I know this because I felt it myself when I was 19 years old. Went to an Air Force Academy, and instead of being forced to take literature or take English, I was forced to take thermodynamics and aerodynamic engineering. And I'm like, I don't want to read these things. I don't want to know these things. How can this be relevant to my life? It's the same idea in reverse in most universities. But of course, as the former rector said in the document that I read coming into this event, don't listen to those voices. Listen to your heart, right? Listen to what motivates you and really feeds what it is that makes you feel belonging and engagement and worth as you go through this life, not just a paycheck and certainly not just a title. So what I've been trying to do as a dean of liberal arts at a very professional-oriented university, Southern Illinois University has a nursing school, a law school, a medical school, a business school, all the things that really attract students as very practical and very smart ways to spend their time in their education. And I don't, of course, want to be derogatory towards those things. They're important. We need all those things. But in the liberal arts, it's not just about trying to professionalize into a single discipline, obviously. It's about experiencing the wealth and the breadth of human knowledge to basically help us all find our way. It's also not about the answers, it's more about the questions. So I urge all of us, as we think about our own educational paths, and we think about how we're going to curate our future experiences, whether it's online or one-on-one or in the meta-universe that's coming, whatever, how are you thinking about the questions that you really want to ask? And if you can answer them very quickly, then perhaps it's the wrong question. I also want to say something from my personal experience that when I was so focused on a single goal at 21 years old in pilot training in the Air Force, I had been in the entire 4 years of my education kind of, I don't want to say indoctrinated, but that's pretty much it. Indoctrinated into the idea of becoming a pilot, flying for the Air Force. That's the only thing that I could possibly do of any worth. And then getting to that opportunity and flying through half of the program and then realizing this is not for me. First of all, I am messing up all their planes with my vomit. That's not good. I'm going to rethink my whole plan here for career. I think the Air Force agreed with me, so I ended up going into a different field. But the point is that profound sense of loss and that profound sense of disorientation from something that I thought and was so sure of for so long was a very important maturational step in my life. It was precisely from that disappointment that I was able to learn what it was exactly I wanted to pursue. And for me, that was education. So I would encourage you to have that moment, if you're going to have that moment, as early as possible. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Really excellent personal story. And what is personal, it's kind of most universal, perhaps. And each of us, I think, are coming to the point when we kind of learn to hear our inner voice. It's seldom that we learn that at school, regular school, but it's good if we are able to achieve that at university level. Thank you. Yes, I would like now to ask our next speaker to share ideas. This can be personal, this can be kind of coming from professional experience already. Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues, everybody. I would just share the experiences of Asia. Liberal arts tradition in Hong Kong and Asia writ large is a relatively recent phenomenon. Asians are very practical in the sense they would do traditionally STEM disciplines, business, medicine, law, something that can provide you with a tangible career and tangible work for much of your life. So the question is, what has marked the shift to liberal arts studies in Asia, large, as I mentioned, writ large? And some people attribute this to a very important statement that Steve Jobs had made many, many years ago. And Steve Jobs, I have a quote, he said, this is Steve Jobs, "Technology alone is not enough. Technology married with liberal arts, married with the humanities that yields the results that makes our hearts sing." So I think what happened is that Steve Jobs' statement resonated with Asia and with all the countries, because what he was implying was that there was some sort of a correlation between liberal arts and creativity and innovation. Innovation was key because he was at that time the most innovative company in the world. So I think in Asia, at least in the context of Hong Kong, there was a sense that, look, the ability for critical thinking, things we talked about earlier, problem solving, teamwork, interpersonal skills, these attributes come from a broadly educated person, comes from the liberal arts tradition that historically is very important. So what we've had over the last 20 years, you find in Asia, even the top elite universities, the major research universities in China, Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, elsewhere, even if they are comprehensive universities, they have established liberal arts colleges within them. Even the top tier Peking University or Tsinghua in mainland have liberal arts tradition. My university, Lingnan University in Hong Kong, is a small liberal arts university, and we pride ourselves to that. So the question for us was, well, what do? We want to have liberal arts. Where do we learn from? And of course, the model has always been the United States. But the United States is, in a sense, a paradoxical model, because liberal arts universities in the United States are heavily endowed. They have billions of dollars in endowment. Liberal arts education is very expensive to deliver. You need to have teachers, you need to have small classes that most countries cannot do. So what we did is we adjusted to our reality. So one of the things we did was, well, we are going to make it accessible, because American liberal arts is no longer accessible, where the tuitions are simply so high, right? It's not accessible. So we want to make it accessible, and at the same time, bring in the Western tradition of liberal arts, but combine it with, in the case of Hong Kong, with Chinese tradition. So you have liberal arts in Japan, Western and Japanese tradition. In Korea, Western and Korean tradition. For us, it is Western and Chinese tradition. And has it worked well for us? I would say it has worked well in the last 25 years. If I tell you the practices we have, the outcomes we have, I would be, and I could give you a lot of details of what has been the tangible outcome. So that's the one context. The second point I want to mention is right now. Where do we stand at this very critical juncture? Because as you know, we are now told that we are living in the age of Industry 5.0. Now, what does that mean? It means the Industrial Revolution 5.0. What is Industrial Revolution 5.0? It is not like any transformation before. It is Industrial Revolution where human beings are going to work alongside advanced technologies, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data. And I think Elon Musk captured this sentiment better than anybody else. He said what we are experiencing today is what happened in Europe with the Gutenberg printing press. It is a critical juncture, a turning point in history. So for us, what do we take from that? And I think the lesson we learned was that what does this transformation will mean? Industry 5.0. In the US and elsewhere, what they predict is that millennials, young people, in your lifetime, you may see 5 to 7 careers. There is not going to be one job where you will be for a lifetime. Those days are over. So if that's the future, that's the bright new world of 5 to 7 careers in a lifetime, we have to educate our students to be prepared for this world, right? That is our job. That is our fundamental responsibility as educators, is to prepare our students. How do we train them? Because it is going to be a period of profound change. It is a very turbulent period. Somebody has to reinvent themselves, especially you young people, reinvent yourself in a lifetime many times. And you have to be willing to adjust, be resilient, deal with the challenges. Because as Musk mentioned, all great transformations come with challenges and opportunities and trauma. So for us now, how do we prepare our students for this brave new world where technology is going to work side human beings? Human beings that are going to work side technology like never before. These are smart technologies. These are just not everyday run-of-the-mill technology. So this is what we have done. And I'll share with you what we have done in the context of Lingnan. First of all, we are providing our students now with digital literacy, ChatGPT and all of that. Why? We want to prepare our students for the new world. Just they used to say, well, English language is not only for English majors, right? Everybody needs to take English. Everybody will need to become literate in digital technology. And that is why you see almost in every university, in every college I know, they have established data science school. Artificial intelligence, there's a proliferation. So that's one. But the other important part of Industry 5.0, and I think this is really important part, they are saying human capital. What type of human capital? Now, in the traditional economic sense of human capital, it is very transactional. It is utilitarian, right? It's cost-benefit analysis. That is a traditional understanding we have of what constitutes human capital. But under Industry 5.0, what they are telling us is we will have to teach our students new skills of adaptability, resilience, tenacity. Think about it, 5 or 7 career changes in your lifetime. You need to be mobile. You need to go where jobs are. You need to be able to adjust to the changes that are going to happen in your lifetime. So how are we teaching us? And I think Industry 5.0, which is our guiding principle, has talked about something very important, and that is called human capital. Now, and I'll conclude on this. This is what we are thinking of at Lingnan. What does this human capital mean? In the traditional economic sense, human capital has always meant skill sets, something that is tangible, that is, you can go to the marketplace. But what Industry 5.0 is saying that human capital has to be much more. There has to be a culture of civic responsibility and responsibility. When you look at Western democracies, what you find happening, I used to live in the United States for many years, and I used to teach at a liberal arts college there. And I saw firsthand that something terribly had gone wrong. Here was a society with advanced democracies, with liberal arts tradition, that had a lot of freedom and a lot of liberty, but not responsibility and obligation. Something had gone wrong. So I think Industry 5.0 is now telling us that our responsibility as educators for the young students coming up, we will have to build within them a sense of human capital that is about civic responsibility. Because without civic responsibility, democracy and everything else is a pie in the sky. Because you need to be able to discuss, tolerate, innovate, work across cultures. So that leads me to my final point. That is why we have valued our partnership with universities around the world, like VMU. We send our students here, our students come there, because I think through this exchange, students learn the basics of tenacity, ability to adapt to different cultures, ability to learn. So I think it is a time of great opportunity, time of great challenge, but that is how, at a macro level, in Hong Kong, we are thinking of liberal arts education. We need to train our students with those virtues of human capital. For the West, it means going back to the classics, reading the great books about tolerance, liberty, and democracy that somehow we lost along the way. So that would be the thoughts I have. Specifics of Lingnan I can talk about, but that is the larger picture that I would share with you. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. I was especially happy to hear all the sort of starting points and the courage you had in the beginning to sort of find your line, which is impressive. Thank you. Please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tai Yan Li from Taipei, Taiwan, National Cheng University, NCCU. I'm really glad to be here. So I will try to give you a brief introduction of what liberal education in Taiwan. And first of all, I would like to say, I would like to clarify the definition of liberal education because we call it general education in Taiwan. And I know that general education is in high school here, but we kind of extend it or prolong it in our higher education in Taiwan. And so we kind of use the two terms interchangeably. So if I say general education, actually I can, and although I know that they are a bit different, but usually I mean the same thing. And actually in Taiwan, we have the history of general education for 40 years. And it has been a long experiment, I would say, because as Vice President Sharma mentioned, we are highly influenced by the US in terms of general education or liberal education. And starting from 40 years ago, we tried to implement a general education which require all university students to take at least 20% of their credit units from general education, which is quite a lot. And the students, as mentioned by earlier panelists, students don't really realize that how important this education, these courses are important for them. And they are only treated as additional courses, broaden their view, and which is not that necessarily the ultimate goal for general education. So in the recent years, in the past 2 years or so, the Ministry of Education in Taiwan initiated a new project to promote and to reform general education, and this project is led by myself. And we think we have a name for this project called Initiative for General Education Renaissance, and which means that we want to reflect from 4 aspects. First, we think every university need to position their general education by themselves, which means that the positioning of general education may be different for different university because the mission for different university may be different. The second one is we want to develop new relations for general education, the relation between professional education and general education, the relation between teachers and the students, and the relation between universities. The third one is that we want to develop new pedagogies, and we think there's a need for new pedagogies for general education. And the fourth one is we think there are some new competency, like mentioned by Sharma, literacy, data literacy, or AI literacy. And the trend, we think we have come up with some general trend. We think we should work for it. We think the barrier between the boundary between general education and the professional education should be some kind of blurred in a way that not only the teachers in general education should now it's not their responsibility for general education, you know. All the colleges, all the professors should put their attention on how to integrate general education or liberal education into their curriculum. And it's also important to connect all these multiple disciplines to make it, no matter it's interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary, I think it's becoming more and more important as we all noticed. And we also think the goal of general education is to deliver or to educate our young generation such that they can learn useful competency and can use them in their daily life. And it's also, as I agree with the speaker in the morning, that general education or liberal education is always a lifelong learning. It's the issue of lifelong learning. The longer you live, the longer you notice the importance of this part of education. And finally, there's a trend in Taiwan which is called autonomous learning or autonomous active learning, which encourages students to learn by themselves. And so we kind of offer a kind of micro-credential to them if they are active in learning and they are more kind of problem-driven such that they can be more active or be motivated to learn something. And this is something we also want to incorporate into our liberal education. I guess I don't have much time, so I'll share these ideas with you. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very good to hear about the significance of new pedagogies. And again, referring to our morning discussion, we saw playfulness. Actually, I would refer that nowadays, when I look at small kids, I think many of them have lost the ability to play by themselves, to play with their peers. They rather play with smartphones, etc. So I think we need to go back and reconstruct and revisit ideas of playful life and learning on our own, but also learning to bring knowledge to communities and take knowledge from communities into schools. That's significant. So thank you for referring to those issues. Now I would like to look at my colleagues at Vytautas Magnus University. Both of them have a specific touch with education science, in one or another a little bit different aspects. I know that Vilma also has education in a caring profession, in nursing, which I think also very nicely resonates with the call to care for others. And that's one of the values that has been lost in a modern life. So please, Vilma, refer.
Thank you very much. Thank you for mentioning this as I wanted to start with. You know, when I came back after my studies in Sweden, where I received a master degree in philosophy of caring with major nursing. So, and usually you, after coming back to your native country, you should transfer all these credits as well as a title. So in Lithuanian language, it is title of master degree in nursing, but this is not total title. As in Sweden, I got liberal arts education. As well, it was the second time when I got my PhD in nursing in Finland. My PhD is not doctor in nursing. I'm doctor of philosophy in nursing, but in Lithuanian system or framework. This is like a doctor in nursing. I'm providing you these examples because of very important notion which I want to deliver to this honored auditorium. I strongly believe that all our life is created by us through using very different notions. Those could be touchable or untouchable, visible or invisible. But even so, through all our lives, we create content of it. When we hear liberal arts or liberal arts, as you want, we fill in the content. If we know the general concept, it is like usual, but we could fill in our authentic content in what it means to me, or to society, or to country where I live, or to the world. As my message was related to labor market, I need to provide to you not maybe very opposite things, but the notions which we hear every day. Labor market asks from universities, skilled, trained for specific, very special place. Liberal arts deliver message, being educated, not only trained, being competent, not only skilled, because competence consists of skills, knowledge, values, attitudes, capabilities, and also abilities, which could be very different, and those are developed through all our life. So it means that liberal arts basically is based on idea on all life or long life education. So what asks from us labor market? They pronounce that they need creative, but what? Specialists. Liberal arts speak about generalists. I strongly believe that the main outcome of liberal arts education is, as I would say, yes, intelligent, educated person, but the person who is capable to create art of learning in his or her authentic way, by being integral part of this world, not only the place. Place is very, I would say, fluid moment. It could be everywhere. I strongly believe that liberal arts as an outcome create in us understanding that all the life is research. If you want such, for me, it could be phenomenological research, which already now, by days, by being in 2024, it has not only traditional four, dimensions, I would say temporality, okay? Spatiality, which means, space, corporeality, but also it is materiality. Also it is nowadays technicality, and what we need to add, morality and ethicality. So by thinking about the idea that this is expensive or not expensive, yeah, it could be calculated economically. But if we would think, the cost and value of educated personality, not I call it individual, but personality, who is capable, within the being in togetherness with people, with nature, with space, with others, with communities, to create the moment of being everywhere. So nowadays, we shouldn't be very surprised when we hear that nowadays, for example, in some Japanese universities, we already have master degree programs who educate people for NASA. And in these groups are people with bachelor in arts, in history, in philosophy, in sociology, in nursing, also in technical sciences, and etc. What it means for us? Nowadays, we do not have such a, very stable basic by saying that, this is based on monodisciplinarity. Nowadays, we need to immerse ourselves within the understanding that every day we live, it is integral multidisciplinarity. And this is multi-layered, never the same. So the mission of liberal arts, I strongly believe, it is related to helping, caring, and supporting students, yes, but personalities to grow in their own way with the understanding that flexibility, it's not the same as being conformist. Every day is being with others, for others, and understanding that specific place we create together with no borders, which we usually, see as physical things. I strongly believe that we create these borders. And by being people who are, strong with morality, strong with ethicality, and strong with competences which we receive, we could maybe fulfill the mission of being educated generalist and being creative and being open up to unknown, which comes when we live in this world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vilma, for pointing our attention to some of the persistent misconceptions of liberal arts that might be found in a society, among bureaucrats, even among parents. So we need bravery as to stand up and to be advocates, continuously advocating the idea of liberal arts education and capacities, focused education, capacity to become an educated individual. Thank you. And Ben-Hur, please.
Hello. I'm Ben-Hur. I'm from Turkey. I work at Kabolis Institute. I would like to raise two issues, if I have time. If not, just one. Like Dean Jody, personal is universal, so I would like to go back to my undergraduate years, my very first year in the university. I was a molecular biology and genetics major. I was very proud.
And the first year, the very freshman year, I had to take a history class, a general survey. But it was it was a little bit of a, unusual class in the sense that the class was offered by all the professors in the history department. And there wasn't a very structured curriculum to the class. Each professor would talk about their own area of expertise. So I'm from Turkey. So you would expect to have the history of the Ottoman Empire, that was included. But then we had the Byzantine Empire, we had the, Latin American history, we had the history of Japan, Middle Eastern history, Central Asian history, a variety of geographies and histories, and not necessarily, the same century or the same area. And I remember very, very clearly, even to this day, the first time I heard the term, the Meiji Restoration. The Meiji Restoration. A freshman undergraduate, what is that? It turns out the Meiji Restoration refers to the period in the history of Japan where Japan has transitioned to modernity, modernization of Japan. Around, late 19th, early 20th centuries. That was very intriguing because I also realized that this is kind of the same period when Turkey was also transitioning from an imperial past to a modern secular republic, and we were going through the trauma of our own modernization period. And then something just clicked. Turkey is not the only country that has experienced this transition. It's just a particular case of a much larger, much broader, universal process of modernization. So then it dawned on me, not that the professor highlighted this or pointed out, explicitly, but it dawned on me that, we are part of the same processes. And different countries experience this in different ways, but there are commonalities or similarities. There is a universality to the particular experience of Turkey on the one hand, and Japan on the other, and any other nation. And we also experience the commonality of trauma, difficulties, challenges. So that freshman year history class, this wasn't how I was taught history in high school context. High school contexts, in general, are very nation-centric. It's very nationally oriented. Turkey's history, Turkey's geography, Turkey's literature, Turkey's, culture, festivities, language, you name it. And also the glorious history, the glorious geography. We are almost like at the center of the universe, and we are proud of it. Not that anything is wrong with that, but then I realized that the Japanese people feel the same way. They also feel like their national culture, their national history, literature, language is something to be proud of, obviously, but also glorious. And they feel like they're at the center of the universe as well. Oh my God, this is, eye-opening experience for me because I realized that we are not alone in feeling that way. And there is something wrong with that feeling. So from the transition from the national-centric curriculum to a more universal or cosmocentric curriculum was the gift of a liberal arts education to me in my very freshman year when I was a molecular science student. 2 years later, I switched over to sociology and I majored in sociology, you know, and no regrets. Well, just a little bit, I don't know. Now, so that's the first point, the universality aspect. I think universities, it's not an accident that it is called a university. It's universal, universe, one song, if you break it up. So we are tasked at universities for conveying the universal nature of human experience and human condition. And we have to go beyond the glorified, nation-centric understanding of the universe. So that's liberal arts for me. Do I have time? Probably not. Do I have time? Maybe? No. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben-Hur, indicating for us that we need to go to beyond. That's a skill, that's a capacity that we need to develop. But it's a long time process. For some people, it's even lifelong process. I hope that for us, it's kind of getting shorter and shorter process. And also, I love this idea of belonging. And every one of us here, we belong to liberal arts. So, dear colleagues, we have heard many beautiful ideas. I would like to open a floor for a few questions. We have 7, 8, 9 minutes because we have another panel joining this podium. So if we have 1 or 2 questions, no urgency. I've noticed that colleagues were making notes. Maybe you would like to sort of add something that you have found, that something that resonated. So I would just simply open the floor to the speakers who is the most willing, the bravest, having urgency to maybe reflect on what other colleagues have said. So I'm addressing the panel. If not, yes, Emilia, please.
Thank you very much for this very lively discussion. I would like to use the opportunity that we have guests from far away. And, the topic is diversity and transformations. I'm coming from social sciences, and there we very often speak about decentering our view on the world. And, I was surprised that you were citing a lot of American authors and American, personalities and all the developments. I'm wondering, my question is especially to Mr. Sharma and Mr. Tsayan Lee. Is there a difference of approach in your part of the world into this education? Can we say that, this education is decentered, or is it in the end something that is, basis of our humanity in the end?
I mean, my quick answer would be that decentering you can take so far, because in the context of Hong Kong, when I say Western and Chinese traditions, in this explicit case of Hong Kong, I think there's a large body of timeless knowledge that goes back to the ancient Greeks that we have built on. And I think that we cannot simply throw that knowledge away. We have to build that. And I think the idea when we talk about civic responsibility, adaptability, tolerance, we need to teach the young generation. At the university, our fundamental responsibility is to the students. We have to provide them good education. We are publicly funded by the taxpayer. We have an obligation to do that. And I think that we want to prepare them for an uncertain world. They're already predicting, as I mentioned, 5 or 7 careers in a lifetime. Can you think of how traumatic that is going to be for young people? They will have to migrate. You already see in Europe large in and out migration. So how do we prepare? So for Hong Kong, it is very practical. We are a small city, country, part of China, 7.8 million people, very dynamic. very dynamic, and in large part because we look at global trends and we try to adjust to the circumstances. In our world, in our context, I think we want to train our students that they will be able to be marketable and find a job, a livelihood, anywhere in the world. That's our goal. I think we have a responsibility to do that for our students. That's the bottom line.
Thank you.
Okay. I would admit that Taiwanese or Chinese or Oriental culture, we are practical, but I think we have a deep culture based on humanity. So I think that's a bit different from the Western world. And so we try to merge both together, being practical and being, human-centered or appreciate humanity. And so in Taiwan, I think we have a very unique culture because we are influenced by many different countries. So I think the value or the productivity of Taiwan has been quite influenced by higher education. And because of the influence by the cultural influence by other countries, we really appreciate that diversity. So if you can find many kinds of fashion and foods in Taiwan, and that kind of diversity kind of create a unique environment for cultivate creativity, cultivate talents with creativity, and also diligent. That's something unique in Taiwan, which make our semiconductor industry quite successful, and which this kind of environment actually cannot be easily reproduced in other countries as we are trying to do it right now. And so we really, I think we are still under experiment, I would say. So it's difficult to say, but I think we really appreciate the multiple cultures and also the foundation, which is a Chinese philosophy or Chinese culture. And we also accept the value of or the system of the Western world. I think it's ongoing experiment. Thank you.
Thank you for your ideas of how you, during your lifetime, have discovered what liberal arts are. But it's 21st century, and people who are entering university are 18, 19 years old. Do you think that liberal arts still have relevance to this young generation?
If I may, yes. And in fact, some of the other ideas that have been on this panel I've really valued. One of the things that was said, I think Vilma said it, was that every day is being with others for others. There's also this theory that we have to teach compassion, and when you teach compassion, you become more resilient. And oh no, here comes a plague. How do we learn to be compassionate with each other in these vast disasters and moments of extreme grief? Those things are not going to not come in the future for these 18 and 19-year-olds. I also resonate with the idea of making sure we're not throwing away the past and remembering some of the valuable knowledge that have been already here, but I also want to praise the impractical. I want to praise the ability to play and the ability to cast off judgment for a while, at least. I don't think there's a poem that can be written ever without that, casting away the judgment for a while, at least. And in part of that compassion and resistance cycle is that resilience, cycle, is this idea that how do you teach that? I'm at my very core, I'm a writing teacher. And one of the first things you have to grapple with as going through a PhD, learning how to teach writing and rhetoric, is can you? How? I mean, okay, grammar is taken care of, fine, we got that under the wings. We can do research, we know how to teach research. But how do you teach the essence of good writing, of writing that compels people to want to read? That's important in the current century. It's been important in centuries past. Also, I'm taking efforts as the Dean of the College of Liberal Arts to modernize and make sure digital literacy is part of what we're doing. It's always been part of my particular mission as a professor, but also as a college. We're going to be the first in the college, in my university, to have a center that's dedicated to artificial intelligence and augmented reality and virtual reality. And I want that there because faculty need to learn how to play with those tools so they can figure out how to incorporate them into their classroom and figure out how to engage these students now for the next job, the next thing they're going to do. So I absolutely, adamantly believe it's relevant to today's student.
My quick answer to you would be the question you've asked is a perennial question. It is a question that will always be there on the table. What is the utility? What is the value of liberal arts education? I think at the end of the day, it's going to depend on outcomes, tangible outcomes. How are we preparing our students for the world in a world that is uncertain, unpredictable, constantly changing, traumatic, right? So it is something that each university will have to find a way. I can say that in the context of Hong Kong, our mission is, in the context of liberal arts, is how do we enhance human capital? Human capital not only to find a job in the traditional sense of the term, but human capital that shows the point that Jody made about resilience, adaptability, to navigate an uncertain world. Because this new technology that is coming, as people like Elon Musk is saying, is unlike any other. This is what they call in history the critical juncture, a turning point. We just don't know. That is why when ChatGPT came out, remember all of these high-tech people began to say, you need to slow down. We are playing God. So if this is a profound change, what can we do? Sometimes at a liberal arts university, we do catch up, but we do the best we can. I don't think we have all the answers. We have some. We have some good practices.
We are actually 5 minutes late already stepping into another panel, so I'm very sorry I have to be sort of strict here because my colleague is waiting with another set of extremely nice, interesting thoughts bringing panelists. So thank you very much. My sincere thanks to all the panelists for beautiful ideas. We'll continue discussing. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. All right, should we try that again? Hello, everybody. There we go. We're gonna have a little bit. Hopefully, we'll have a little bit. I don't know. We'll have a little bit more interesting topic. Well, not more interesting than before. The last panel was incredibly interesting, and I've got my notes, and I'm going to want to talk to people afterwards. But we have a brand new set of amazing panelists up here to talk about. With one exception, we are missing one person, so I just to say that right up. If you're looking, if you've got the notes, we've only got 5 up here instead of 6, and that's correct. But I would like to introduce them. I'm going to pour my water. We're kind of still getting set up here. Hi, welcome to the panel. We're going to talk about within and beyond the university, expertise versus professionalism. And our illustrious panel here are made up of former VMU students, yes, who have gone through our programs and are now out mostly in the professional world. And we're going to talk about how liberal arts has affected their current status, how it affected them when they were here, and kind of get the same kind of histories that we were talking about. So what I'd like to do is just start off. I'm going to introduce you, and if you can just to start with, give us your definition of what liberal arts is. All right, so starting off, we've got Simonas Krepsta. Yes? Yes. So go ahead.
First of all, it's a great pleasure to come back here, and it's a nice setting, and thanks for invitation. It's a wonderful event. And probably I won't give a very scientific answer to this question, but obviously liberal arts is a wide range of topics, a wide range of arts and subjects which are being taught at this university. And I think it was very important for my development, for my career, because it gave a range, which I think is one of the key things to get something done and to do something in the professional field and to be successful. There is this book about the range. It's called Range, and it tells that probably the generalists are trumping the world in comparison to specialists, and this liberal art forum, I think it's very much in line to this idea, and I'm really happy that I finished this university and now doing things related to what I was studying here.
Fabulous, thank you. And just to clarify, what is it that you do now?
I'm the board member of the central bank, responsible for financial supervision of the financial sector in Lithuania.
It's a pretty big distance from a liberal arts degree.
Well, yes and no, because I was studying finance and economy here, okay. So in that sense, it's pretty close.
Fabulous, fabulous. Next up, we have Rasa. My pronunciation is horrible, so please forgive me in advance. Astroskaite. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you think of liberal arts?
Okay. Good afternoon. So happy to be here. I left this building 28 years ago, and it was literally today that I re-entered it. So thanks a lot to Vilma, who happened to be my classmate, and to Rita, the 2 colleagues with whom I spent 4 years, fantastic years at the school. So my definition and my understanding of liberal arts is something that's very broad, interdisciplinary, and of course I have the benefit of all the scholars who spoke before me. But there are 3 things that I see then also as a graduate of a liberal arts college. Number 1, that it promotes human cultures, both through the study of arts, through the study of languages and histories and culture. Secondly, for me, it's the issue that was also emphasized by professors from Asia, and that is civic and personal responsibility, something that I think we all have to embody. And I think that's why liberal arts colleges are not necessarily taking root in some of the illiberal regimes, because we are also the ones who are more likely to protest, to challenge the rules, whatever the rules happen to be representing. And thirdly, it's about different types of inquiry. I mean, interdisciplinary inquiry, types of methods, critical thinking, creative thinking. So it's the three things: cultures, methods, and responsibility.
Wow. Fabulous. Thank you. We'll come back to that, because I would love to see what how you think we're succeeding or not with that idea. Next, Linus Vetelvicius.
Don't try.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Well, liberal arts is probably an educational method to produce a well-rounded individual. Am I well-rounded? I think I'm still rounding up. But in life, problems or challenges are seldom isolated in one dimension, so they are multidimensional. You can acquire a historical look, technological angle, philosophical, psychological, and it helps to be able to look from all those angles to take an informed decision. So yeah, but when I started university, I had no idea. There were no words liberal arts mentioned, I believe, on advertising. I did it kind of intuitively. I went to both universities in Kaunas, which were available, the other one being KTU. Yeah, but my choice was this one, but it was based on intuition, I would say. Yeah, and no regrets. Yeah.
And what are you doing now?
Yes, I'm running a service robotics company, but just out of curiosity, the name of the company that I gave comes from alchemical process, one of the stages of alchemical process, which is meant to produce gold, and Carl Gustav Jung kind of showed that the alchemical process is actually a process of individuation where a person finds his true self, and producing gold means finding your true self. So the name that I gave to my company is already very much indicative of how liberal arts put something into me.
And what is that name?
Robertos.
Fabulous. And well, again, we'll come back to this, but with robotics, are we also looking? We heard in the last panel about artificial intelligence and the way things are going. Is that certainly something that you're dealing with?
Yes, indeed. It's something that we have to deal with. Well, yeah. Maybe later about this.
Okay, all right. Next, we have Titus Petrikis. Tell us a little bit about yourself and.
Thank you, Jack. I'm probably a good example what can happen to a person with liberal arts education, because when I started VMU as a student, I graduated international relations and diplomacy, which was a great choice. But music was my great passion in my life, and when you have this safe profession, like you can go to diplomacy area, but you compose music at the end of the day and or even nights as artists do, and you try to do both. At some point, I had to make a choice, especially when the 20s kick in and you realize that you have some dreams and you might never even try doing them. So I think it's thanks to liberal arts education, to this critical thinking, that I was brave enough, and when I think about it, it really was a brave decision to leave all this comfort zone and profession you already have and to try something else. And I decided to go to study to UK film composition. and I'm a composer now. I really love what I do, and I don't imagine, I would be the person without international relations and composition that could be somehow separate. So that's the sum of all these experiences. And currently I work at the Department of Faculty of Arts, and I run music production program here at VMU.
Fabulous, thank you. And our last panelist, here we have Gusta Zhukowskaite, who is actually still a student here at VMU.
Yes, I wanted to make a little correction because at first you introduced us as all alumni of.
Yeah,
Sorry, not
soon.
yet. Soon. This June, hopefully. But yeah, so yes, I'm a student of pedagogy and of primary education and early foreign language teaching, but I consider myself more at the moment as a teacher. I'm a primary school teacher. And so the definition of liberal arts is, I would explain this in a more easier way, because I work with smaller children. So yeah, I would imagine that liberal arts is like a plate, on a plate you can have meat, fish, or rice, salad, whatever, sauce, and you can eat those things separately, but you can also eat them at the same time. But in the stomach, all things are mixed up together, and this is the connection between those things. So you can study history, literature, arts separately, but what liberal arts gives me is that this connection. And in this case, you are ready for almost everything. Yeah, you should be ready for almost everything that comes up your way.
Fabulous, thank you. And thank you for taking time away from writing your BA thesis to join us today.
No problem.
We've all been there, right? We know what that is. And if you haven't been there yet, you will be soon. Those of you students in the back, be prepared. I would just like to start. Russ, I have a question for you. You're working in the EU now, right? You're all over. In America, it's been said that medical schools would rather take in someone with a liberal arts BA rather than a pre-med degree, because you can teach the medicine, you can't teach how to talk to patients. What do you think about that?
I will sound extremely controversial, given that it's my alma mater. I would still prefer my doctor and my surgeon to be specialized in medical sciences. I understand the selling part, and I understand the packaging part, and maybe someone who speaks with experience, because my husband has gone through an extremely aggressive form of cancer, and we've gone through multiple surgeries in various hospitals throughout Europe. I would rather still talk to someone who's practiced and who studied medical sciences.
I'm not saying we're going to take somebody who's got a liberal arts degree and put them into a surgery.
Look, I will come back to you in a moment. We recently, if you listen to some of the talks, Dominic Cummings, who is the chief foreign policy advisor to the previous prime minister of the United Kingdom, said, I need to have more people in STEM. I have enough of these Oxford Bridget bluffing graduates. So I do recognize that, of course, there are certain professions where we have me, like a diplomat, and clearly a graduate of a liberal arts college, and as a result, someone who bluffs and speaks on various subjects, not necessarily being an expert on them. And at the same time, I do recognize that there are certain issues, like, for me, medical science being one, but also, climate change or artificial intelligence, where we clearly need to have people who do know how to write the code and who need to be also subject matter experts. So I recognize the bit where it's important, the human, the compassion, the element of empathy, the adaptability. But at the same time, I do recognize, once you reach the BA level, I think you need to still go and do a few degrees, like I did.
Oh, no, that's what I'm talking about, in the BA level. Yeah, sorry. Lenny.
Yeah, I'd like to comment, if I may. Well, day-to-day, work of a doctor, it might not be so obvious where is this benefit coming from if you have liberal arts. But just imagine that you have to work on the extremities of, let's say, Ukraine war, where you have to do surgeries and when bombs are coming in. So being able to look at these things a little bit more philosophically with historical outlook, knowing about human tendency to corruption, to power, susceptibility, and all those things, not only your direct duty, but also those much broader outlook. It probably is easier for you to work and to not to collapse under this kind of unusual circumstances, in my opinion.
Does anybody else want to chime in? Absolutely.
I think the question is not either or, soft skills or hard skills. It's both. Both are important, obviously. Technology changes the world. Major technological innovation is the main driver of the world. But if you have good soft skills on top of your technological skills, that makes the best cocktail for to be successful. So I think, and maybe I'm in part an example of that, because economy is not a technological science; it's a social science, but still it's a specialty with quite a lot of numbers, maths, and different things. But of course, you need to have on top the ability to network with different stakeholders. You need to have the ability to tell stories and convince people that you are doing the right thing, or convince them to make some decisions. And that, of course, is a key component of a liberal art field.
Yeah, it's I was thinking about Dr. House when I was thinking about these questions. You don't necessarily want him as your. Yes, technically, the guy's going to know what he knows, and he's going to help you, but you don't want to talk to him, right? And that's the thing. And when I was in university, that was certainly one of the things that had come up, was the idea that we want to be able to, the soft skills, as they say. So I'm absolutely not saying beyond the bachelor. In America, it's you go to the bachelor and then you go to the medical degree or the law degree, as opposed to like someplace here where you start the medical degree at 19 and move forward. So no, I'm not saying, here, read Chaucer, now remove this appendix. Not doing that. Don't want to. Although if you know Chaucer, that doesn't mean you can't take out an appendix. I'm not saying that either. But all right, Linus, I got a question for you. What do you do to unwind? Do you find yourself revisiting topics as you go through your day? Do you find yourself revisiting topics that you learned back in your bachelor days?
Of course I do. It's just not very tangible and easy to describe how it works out. It was not very obvious when I was learning all these things. Well, let's take an example. When I came to this university, I studied computer science naturally, but suddenly there were possibilities to choose, very diverse subjects, and I went to Professor Arvydas Žygas, I believe was his name, and he's professor of anthropology at University of Illinois and also here. So I studied anthropology and ended up, I think, the best in the class, even though I was, some kind of, computer science student. And all that knowledge of, our precursors, those kind of human-like apes, and how they stand erect, and the bone structure and so on. Then now we are dealing with humanoid robots, which have all kinds of kinematics, how bones work, how joints work. I can connect, my perspective, like biological, anthropological perspective of these, very ancient times, like 2 million ago, with how robotics and service robotics evolves to this day, nowadays. Not to mention, artificial intelligence, which is as opposed to natural intelligence. We're not really sure how the brain works. For example, there were like, I think, six paradigm changes how brain works, but I'm not going to now go into this detail. And some people might think that we now are confident that brain works like a computer, but if you know a little bit more, it does not. Actually, we do not know how it works. Have no clue. But somehow we are able to mimic. So yeah, this is quite useful, but hard to describe.
What do they say? That the human mind is getting closer to being able to understand itself, right? That's the quote. So do you find yourself going back for inspiration to things that you studied? I mean, obviously, if you studied the sociology and the history, do you find yourself going back for inspiration of the current work into the stuff that you studied? Do you pull the old books off the shelf? Yeah. Just to continue that thought.
I believe I answered that. Of course.
Okay. I'm just curious. All right. Titus. Hello. Way over there. As you've moved into your professional career, do you find the broader approach of liberal arts offered enough preparation for your current occupations? And in what way is that approach better or worse?
Well, I hope so. I employ this knowledge I gain at the university in my music teaching classes. I hope the students also like that, but I always try to talk about the context why we are in this situation today, how similar, if we have to talk about history, what happened to the people in the 19th century, how they had to make choices. And I relate to that. I think it's very important to create this critical thinking. I think in general, and that really resonates with what I heard today in the panel, what happens here is that liberal arts equips us with the ability to make choices and make decisions, which is not very popular. It's very, very comfortable to stay where you are and do not challenge yourself or unpleasant questions, or you just you stay as you in a comfort zone. So liberal art education enables us from very early days to make choices, and those choices have consequences. There are not only positive consequences. If you take at the university one course, you do not take another, and you always have this sacrifice. So that's the essence of a democratic society, which is based on choices people have to make. In addition, what happens in liberal art education, that you are exposed to different social groups. You're not closed in your bubble. You actually meet some people from other areas of specialties, and you create business networking. That is very, very important to further on to succeed as professional. So this open thinking is the natural outcome of liberal art education, and that is a very important ingredient of democracy.
Wow. And as you've moved moved away from the economic, the political, into the music, do you find that the liberal arts background that you got has enlightened that in terms of being open to other cultures that you see around you, like when you said you moved to the UK, and being surrounded by those other cultures? And did the liberal arts education help you bring those in to your work?
I hope so. You can't say about yourself, but my thought is to be open-minded and actually embracing the technology we have nowadays. There is another thought which is coming to my mind, that we are witnessing some kind of new renaissance. I was visiting the Museum of Leonardo da Vinci in Vilnius in the very last days before it was closed. I was so lucky still to see that. But it was so inspiring to see what this man 500 years ago was doing. And he was multidisciplinary in his heart. And for centuries later, we had to kind of shift away from this idea of being multidisciplinary because the sciences were moving into the direction, specializing, focusing. And I remember the panel of scientists some 10 years ago, which was striving to find common grounds to do multidisciplinary research. And all these scientists were talking in their own languages. They couldn't talk to each other. They were very professional experts, but they could not find common grounds. So with contemporary technology, I see new opportunities for artists, again, to gain advantage to multidisciplinary area, because we have tools now to be proactive, to investigate those new fields, like artificial intelligence or 3D printing, which enables to create prototypes instantaneously. So I think that liberal arts will play a pivotal role in shaping those new scientists and new artists. And I'm rethinking my career again. As you mentioned, we will have 7 careers. I'm thinking, so what is next in my career going to happen? Am I compose another 47 score to the film? Well, I pretty much know what's happening in film scoring, but maybe there is something else I have to do. And that's events like these inspire all of us, also students, but also all of us, scholars.
Excellent. Thank you. Guste. Hi. All right. So you are still at school, right? Here you are in a panel with people that have graduated, have gone on to careers. As you teach, because you're also teaching now, right, full time? And so do you find that your liberal arts education is coming through to your young students? And does it make you see the world a little bit differently than previous?
Yes and no. I would say that liberal arts has given me an opportunity to expand my knowledge. And even now I'm studying not only pedagogy, not only primary school, not primary education, not only psychology, but I have this overview of everything more or less of everything what's going on. And competent is like thinking carefully, looking for the information, explaining ideas. Everything comes to the point that I'm a personality. I'm not a specialist, Yes, I can be specialized in the field, but liberal arts creates personalities. And also adaptability. Now, since I'm graduating, I can say that at university I learned how to be adaptable, how quickly adapt to new unexpected situations, flexibility that was mentioned before, and I think that I'm more ready, what's coming up next. And even if one day I decide to change my career path, it's not that the things that I got at the university are bad, the knowledge, the competencies that are old-fashioned, but it's just that I'm open to new experiences, to new challenges, and I'm not afraid of. And I think for 21st century resident, this is really important, to be open-minded, go straight forward to the future. We have AI, but personalities. This is what liberal arts is about.
I agree. I'm with you. But now that leads me to something that Jody was talking about in his presentation earlier at the last panel about the practicality of liberal arts. That as a teacher myself, I get a number of students who come in and they've got jobs, but they're here at university and they're not doing very well, right? They don't come to class, they don't do their homework, they're failing. And I'll sit down with them and I'll talk to them and I'll say, why are you here? And the most resounding answer is, my mom wants me to be here, right? But you've got a job, you're already making a living. Why do you want to be here? And so what I'm wondering, and this is a question just for all of you, is we tend to focus on the practicality, right? And studying English literature doesn't necessarily have a commodified purpose. And so, do you think that this is sustainable? That are we going to see a kind of shunt away from liberal arts into more practical, like the idea of STEM? Coming back to that STEM idea, are we going to see that kind of a diversion? That's for anybody, all of you. Just curious. Who wants to jump in?
Well, if I may just quickly, we try to answer the question why, not just how things are done, but actually why you are doing this. And this hunger for knowledge to see beyond the actual, thing is what should drive the motivation of the students. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not in the extent we wished. But another thing, what we are challenged with is the presence of screens and what digital technologies do to the curiosity and imagination to people. The university can become, again, this playground. I really like this notion, we were talking about playground and being playful in our lives, because we really stop being imaginative in a very direct way. So all those exercises, they help them to understand and question what they do. Of course, they can be very successful in particular job, but how to be thinking from the conceptual level of what you do in your life. This is what higher education is designed for.
I want to start by giving you my personal example. I'm extremely fortunate to have entered Vytautas Magnus University because I entered the social sciences department with the wish to become a scientist. I wanted to become a sociologist. I wanted to study social sciences. I mean, just because of historical context, I wanted to study societies from the way of its formation, etc. And I ended up wishing to join the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I'm the opposite of Titas. He studied international relations. I studied sociology. I ended up a diplomat. I actually had to go back to school, study international relations, political philosophy, European studies. So I had a number of additional degrees. So it took me much longer. But I'm extremely grateful for the university because it gave me a chance to realize what I actually want. Now, to come back to your question about STEM. Recently, the Washington Post did a poll, is university still worth it? And guess what? 56% of Americans said no. Because of two things. Number one, there is lack of confidence in university because if you look, previously, if you had a degree, liberal arts or some other degree, it immediately meant social mobility and both financial and economic growth. And that is no longer the case. The average price of a good university college per year is $98,000, and I'm talking dollars, and I'm of course speaking under the guidance and authority of someone who comes from the United States. So it becomes extremely expensive, and it's a very slow process of getting a degree, because if you graduate from a liberal arts college, it's not that you immediately get a job. Now, someone who has worked with a number, as a diplomat, I've been posted all over the world, including in Iraq and some other post-conflict countries. It's a rich man's problem. Like, if you work with communities from underprivileged groups of society, if you work with the global south, for them, usually one person has to support an extended family of 20 people. Do you really can afford spending years discovering myself like I did? I spent years studying first sociology, then I did political philosophy, then I did European studies and international relations. It's fantastic, but I could afford it. I didn't have a huge family whom I had to support at the same time. But if you come from Iraq and you know that you have 20 people relying on you, you probably will go for a degree that will lead you much faster to a well-paying job. So some of the things that we're discussing, it's clearly it's like, there is a geopolitical question that forces us to address. It's the question of privilege. And we are privileged to have these kind of discussions, and we are privileged to have this kind of education and really move from one degree to another. But if you have the pressure of society, if you have to deliver, you will probably gonna go to a university and get a degree which will lead you, and then STEM happens to be an answer in many cases.
Yes, some thoughts and maybe some thoughts in financial terms, since I'm from this field. So I believe, liberal arts education is like an insurance policy, because you have a wider range of specialities. You have experienced wider range of subjects and met wider range of people when you're going through this education. And the world is complex, and you never know what can happen. And of course, having a wider range of experiences, it's much better. You diversify your risk for the future, and I see it as an insurance policy for your future path.
Well, I don't think it's very practical in in classic sense of this of the word. Well, at least it is not as practical as, for example, ability to knit or fix cars or do have some hard skill which you can instantly monetize if you like. It just helps to keep you afloat. So this is like insurance that you mentioned, and I think the other there are certain people which I think I belong myself, which are breadth first rather than depth first, and I really didn't know where to put myself when I was graduating secondary school. I did reasonably well in every subject, be it music or math or literature, but I was not. There was no peak interest which I could identify. So, yeah, I had no idea where to put myself, and this liberal arts university just opened. It was a perfect fit for me. It was a niche where I could put myself and mature a little bit more. And actually, even though I studied computer science, I ended up, I developed software for more than a decade, but ended up basically networking and interacting with people, trying to understand their needs and pains, and translating this to software people.
Yeah, I wanted to react that, my mom wants me to be at the university. I think that the problem is, at the lower level, at the secondary school or even primary school, because we all have had teachers, some of them, they teach the specific subject, and some of them, they teach life. And ask yourself, which teachers do you remember now? My personal answer is the ones that teach life. And yeah, I think that I'm happy that Vytautas Magnus University has division of liberal arts. And actually myself, first I got into STEAM pedagogy. I studied math and physics pedagogy. Then I changed my study program to pedagogy of primary education, but I have graduated the minor studies at the Entrepreneurship Academy, and this doesn't mean that I'm just a teacher. And thank you, my alma mater, that I can be this well-rounded, student, and I think that this is a great opportunity to check what suits you the best, and not to be afraid of making mistakes and study as long as you want. I'm already having troubles to decide what I want to do for masters, so hopefully I will find it. I still have time.
But the masters is on the agenda.
Yes.
Okay. Fabulous. Here. Are the applications going in? Have we trying to?
No, yes, but I'm still thinking,
All
because I don't know if I want to go more deeper, in the education field, or I want to be more broad.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It's fine. I was actually going to, I got in trouble when I was writing up my list of questions. I'd actually given you guys homework, and I got yelled at for that. There's a short story that I wanted to talk about by a science fiction writer named Alfred Bester, who wrote in the 50s. And he wrote a story called The Disappearing Act, and I don't want to get into it all completely, but the basic gist of the story is the main character is a general who is fighting an unambiguous war to support the American dream. And something happens and he can't figure it out. And he gets all of his experts and he can't figure it out. And he calls for a poet. And the problem is that there are no poets because everybody has specialized into something to support this war effort, to support the American dream, right? And to get back to that last question that I was talking about, and maybe to continue that discussion, is, when you have young students, right? Gusta, how old are the students that you teach?
Primary school, second grade, so 8, 9 years old.
8, 9 years old. My daughter is in second grade right now. And we tend to, and all of us have either experienced this or have asked it as we get older, is what do you want to do when you grow up, right? Which the implication is, what do you want to do for a living? What do you want to do to make money? And to come back to this idea of the commodification, and this idea of being able to just study and to have that privilege to learn, is it a problem that we might be moving away from, wrong way to say it, that to take away the idea of just studying for the sheer joy of studying, of learning, as opposed to having that end goal in mind? And I don't know if that touches on what we just talked about or not, but I'm just curious as to what your thoughts are.
I think that it's great that we start questioning students, children, what they want to do in their lives, because every half year, more or less, their minds are changing. And maybe half year ago they wanted to be a scientist, like a teachers, or maybe after 6 months they want to be firefighters, and that's fine. And why, personally, when I got this question, I was graduating from the high school, I didn't know what to do in my life, and then I took a gap year, because this year was the best year of my life, I could say, besides the years at VMU. But yeah, because I could try and see what I want to do with my life. And I went abroad. I was volunteering at primary school in Slovenia. I lived there for a year. And then coronavirus happened, and I couldn't go to school. And this is the time when I realized that I want to be a teacher, that I want to be at school. But how did I choose Slovenia? This was like, I was 18, and I asked my mom and my grandmother, tell me what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do for a living when I was 6 years old, because I didn't remember. And they told me what I did when I was playing, like how I played, there was a table with chairs. I was like, dolls were sitting on the chairs and so on. I was playing school. And I think this was a great way of questioning, okay, Gusta, what do you want to do? Gusta, what do you want to do? Because actually already in primary school, we know what we want to do. Just in the teenage years, we forget because other problems come up. So my thought is that we have to start questioning students in the early age and help them, when they need to make a decision, because this is life, just to remind them, hey, when you were 6, you wanted to do this. And yeah, it might have changed, till now, but still he has something, to try, and then change if he doesn't like it, like I did.
I may just add to this beautiful speech that when we ask questions, we need to be able to listen without judgment, which is not an easy thing to do, to embrace that response which you not expect. And to add to the profession choice, I have to say that when I see people who do things from the bottom of their hearts, they are, the most important, they are happy. And it's very nice to have happy people around you. And despite the fact that law and medical schools are very prestigious and usually well paid, I've seen so many people who are unhappy because they didn't know what they want to choose, and they went to that school and they run unhappy, unhealthy lifestyle, and they have to change anyways, or the life takes them away by diseases. And so this is, God gives, God takes, and you cannot live dishonest life of yourself. And just to finish off, that even very bizarre professions, very really weird professions, you don't know they exist on earth, they can be financially okay to sustain yourself.
Yes, a few ideas. I think it's very important to make decisions at the right time. So obviously, when you choose your career, you can do it when you are 6, and some succeed. I guess they've always wanted to be a firefighter or to go to Mars. But practice also shows that mostly people who decide quite late, before they take quite a number of different experiences, and they understand much better what they really like, where they have passion. And liberal arts, of course, gives that opportunity to take this decision quite late. Even when you enter a university, the first few years, you still can go through different subjects and make this decision a bit later. And sports is another example. Again, majority of famous sportsmen who achieve big goals, they actually started quite late that sport where they were most successful, with some exceptions. But usually they have tried different kind of sports before, and then they chose at 16 or 17 years old that one where they were most successful. Because you understand your abilities, you try different things, you find the one where you are best, and I think liberal arts gives a lot of these kind of opportunities.
Fabulous, thank you. We've got about 5 minutes left. If anybody has any questions, I have more, so it's okay. Yes, okay. Please.
May I ask you a little bit provocative, maybe, question? Yes, liberal arts provide to us possibility to make choices, and just to move, beyond. But what about responsibility? For example, you're choosing the profession, me as a nurse, and seeing that this is hard. And you are saying, it is too hard. I'm moving out, okay? So what do you think about, not only choices, okay? So how many choices? It's not the question, but the question about responsible acting and integration of thinking and acting, and being responsible for outcomes, and not moving out even when you see that this is hard. Because, nowadays, like a recommendation, if it is hard, move out. Let's pretend you have your patient on operation table, and you need to have 7 hours in operation, and physician decides 3 hours, I'm moving out. So I said, you're provocative. We have a lot of professions, not only medical. What do you think, of being in, integral maybe attitude of adding to artes liberalis also responsible acting and being responsible for outcomes, or at least, trying to be responsible too.
Give it a try. Not at the level of individual, but at the level of community. As graduates of liberal arts, we are more likely to stand up. We are more likely to take a responsive action. If you look now at the United States, what are the colleges on the campuses of which we have tent camps in support of what's happening in the Middle East? It's the liberal arts colleges. Why are some liberal arts colleges were closed in China, in some other Asian countries? It's precisely because they do not want liberal arts students to go and protest. We're more likely to come and stand up for climate change or against climate change, for a number of environmental courses, for what we believe in terms of the value systems, etc. So at the level of community meaning the graduates of liberal arts college, I think we're more responsive because I think ethical grounding and the foundation were laid during our liberal arts education. I mean, of course, I can't answer for the question of or at the level of an individual, because if you move, I mean, you can be a good, math professor and you can still move from one, because this is at the level of individual, it's difficult to speculate.
Yes, it's a good observation. I may just add that when it is hard, it's easier to do the profession when it is your passion. When it's not your passion, it becomes much harder, practically impossible to pursue that career. And with liberal arts, you have those minor tests, what you really want to do in your life. So maybe that helps.
I guess it'd be the difference between a challenge if it's your passion and a chore if it's not, right?
And just another thought is that we are afraid to make mistakes in life, and that's so wrong. Actually, the English word mistake is a wonderful one. It's not an error as in our language. It's mistake. So you have to do lots of experiments to make the right one. And that's great when you go and between the areas of your interest, because that's the way how you answer your question, the question to yourself, who you are, what's your identity. We have to figure out. That's a lifelong journey, I believe.
Maybe not necessarily if you are a doctor.
And so we've come full circle. We have one more question, okay?
I have a question, more of a comment maybe, but just your overall today's events, thank you so much, from the morning to the panel here. I'm thinking about the idea of critical thinking and the opposition that we were seeing in some of the discussion between the sciences and technology and people pursuing more specialized education and liberal arts education. It's in fact actually the critical thinking and the scientific method really are one and the same thing. I'm a scientist myself, and I always, when I was teaching my introductory students at the university in the United States, I used debate method and argumentation to teach them scientific method. So I just want to emphasize that the liberal arts, the thing that I think all of you have touched on in one way or another is your ability to do critical thinking and argumentation. That's to me, the essence, and you want to have a very broad education, through various disciplines. And this has economic value, as some work had concerns with, but it's also personal value. You want to be able to make decisions, using critical thinking and reasoning skills, which I think that's what you overall get, from your liberal arts education. Thanks.
Do we have time for one? I don't know what's coming next. We don't really have time, sorry. But thank you all for coming. Thank you to this illustrious panel.